Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Wait, well, we got Eric here, so we're going to get started. I'm going to get us live on LinkedIn. We'll get going. So welcome, everyone. Great to have you here. Boom, we're going live on LinkedIn. I got to get let the video play over there for a second. And we're live rolling. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Manufacturing Ecommerce Success Series. I'm one of your hosts, Damon Postolka. I've got my co-host, Kurt Anderson, with me today, and I'm going to let Kurt introduce our guest, and then we're going to begin talking about simple marketing tips that drive powerful results for manufacturers. So, Kurt, let's go. I'm going to be monitoring the chat on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, let us know where you're coming in from. We've already got the chat rolling there. We're going to keep it going, and we're going to get things rolling. Go ahead, Kurt. Thanks.
Gail, you had me at hello. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Happy Friday. And this is Damon Postolka, the host with the most, my partner in crime, growth and exit strategy specialist with Exit Your Way. My name's Kurt Anderson. Happy Friday. What an honor and privilege to introduce my dear friend, Eric. Eric, welcome to the program, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Damon, Eric and I go in COVID years, we go way back. I think we met in October, right, Eric? And
yeah, just about.
The time in COVID time, that's like 20 years. So we go way back, and Eric is a digital marketing specialist, graduate of Stony Brook, one of the top universities here in New York. And so Eric, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and we're going to dig right into the program.
Well, I'm a digital marketer at this point in my career. I started off as an entrepreneur out of college. We were trying to get a startup off the ground, and we had some tech difficulties. So I had been building websites since I was in the 7th grade. And in that sort of difficulty, I decided to try and fill the gap a little bit. And, honestly, it didn't work out that way. The startup failed. But it changed the trajectory of my career path. So I started freelancing, I started picking up jobs, and I would say maybe about 5 years ago, I noticed that even if you build a really fancy website, it really doesn't matter if nobody goes to it, nobody visits it. So that's when I started really throwing my hat in the ring and venturing out into digital marketing and learning more about SEO, learning more about paid ads, learning more about outbound and inbound marketing. And it's been a wild ride. Even now, everything changes every year. This year it's Clubhouse and it's TikTok advertising. And last year it was everybody has to have videos on their landing pages. And every year there's a new set of metrics that are trending, but really relevant to pay attention to. And then there's the tried and true sort of path that, you always should adhere to, because at the end of the day, it's about value, and it's about making sure that your audience knows what you're doing. It's about raising awareness, and it's about, sort of conforming to what the algorithms are looking for to be found.
Wow. So much to unpack there. Now, Eric, where are you coming from today? Tell us where you're at. Where are you coming live from today?
So I'm in New York. I'm actually in my wife's office because she's the one that's set up right now.
So Damon, don't hate on me. I wear my Yankee shirt just for me and Eric today. So
that's all right.
Don't hate on us. All right. So any of the Yankee fans out there, so Eric and I, I wanted to fly the colors for you, dude. So
well, I'm telling you.
I appreciate that.
My baseball team, the Mariners, the only thing they can do is figure out how not to win the World Series for 30-some years. That's what we do.
That's right. So Dan, I'll have my manufacturing shirt on next week for you, brother. So anyway, so Eric, you just revealed a ton. Let's unpack that a little bit. So and right out of your career, right out of college, you had a little, like you said, a little step back. And sometimes those setbacks in our early stages of our career. So talk a little bit about how did that go? What happened? What did you learn from that experience?
Well, what was interesting there was, especially back then, if you were looking to do anything that was sort of software as a service, you needed one of your founders to be a tech savvy individual. Otherwise, you were going to struggle. If you tried to outsource your tech, especially back then, you you were going to be in trouble. Like, you really need to lay it out. Usually when you outsource things, you need to be really piecemeal with your direction. And we just didn't have what it took, right? The person that we had on board just wasn't interested enough in the project. So sort of looking to salvage the product, I reverted back to my basic understanding of code. And I was like, well, maybe we can just put something together. Maybe we can hold on to the email list and things like that. And, you know, things fall apart. I don't regret going down that road because I learned a lot. I learned a ton. Even now as an entrepreneur, I'm still learning a lot. I'm still learning a ton. But, you know, looking back, you know, there were some opportunities that I wish we could have taken advantage of. Thankfully today, if you're looking to found a startup, there's a lot of no-code platforms where if you don't necessarily know how to code something, you can still sort of build out your ideas. And, you know, the internet's really accessible right now. I don't know if that's ever going to change, but it's really accessible. If you have a good idea, if you have a good product, if you provide a good service, you can set yourself up to raise awareness within days and put yourself in front of people if you know where your audience lives and you have your messaging down pat. So it's a good time to be in the digital marketing space, man, especially with COVID.
Absolutely. And with all the changes, like our friend Dan Bigger says, he can hardly remember his name, let alone keep up with everything. And my dear friend Noah's in the house, Noah from Portland, Oregon. So no, he's, as a matter of fact, Noah, Damon, he's our speaker in a few weeks. He's a commerce star. So he's speaking in several weeks. Noah, thank you. Joyce is here. Jeff is Jersey's here. But Eric, so let's dig in a little bit. So you have that little setback, and again, great learning experience. They don't teach you those things in college, what it's like hands-on to have that fallback. You had a couple of choices to make. You could either, go out and find a job like a lot of your other classmates would have you. You decided freelance and jump into entrepreneurship. What was that like? What was there a tipping point where you're like, you know what? I'm just not really made to work for somebody else. I'm going to do my own gig. How did that play out?
Well, that's an interesting question. You know what? I don't remember if I mentioned this to you in our conversations together, but I never actually quit my job, right? I was terrified to quit my job. So when I was freelancing, I would do the freelancer work at work, and I had like an overnight gig. So I was just basically like working on websites at work, working on different sort of marketing projects at work. And eventually I reached a point where I realized if I wanted to really become profitable, I had to double down and go all in, right? I just had to pay attention to what I was doing and look to start to build my business. So at some point in about 2016, you know, I had gone from full-time to per diem. And then as a per diem, I was a counselor. I was a youth counselor in detention centers. And I just started, you know, like, stop giving me hours. I need to take time. And I just stopped picking up hours, and it just felt comfortable. I'm like, all right, well, you know what? If anything happens, I have to pay the bills. I can always, you know, just call my bosses up and be like, hey, man, I need to get back in the game. But it just happened to work out. I got a few good clients that, you know, I was on board with for a while, and kind of needed me for a range of stuff. So usually when I describe myself as a digital generalist because realistically, I work around the world, right? Like, I can build you the website, I can help you with your branding, I can help you with your SEO, I can help you with your digital advertising, and that's all well and good. But realistically, as a business owner, at this point, I'm looking to bring people on who specialize in those things, not try to be a jack of all trades, and really just sort of focus in. So learning more about the manufacturing space has been really interesting to me because it seems like there's a lot of people in that space that are doing great things and doing good work, but may not necessarily be optimized for digital, right? Like there's not a tremendous amount of awareness about why one product is better than the other. And just as a layperson looking on the outside in, it seems to boil down to two things: price and quality, right? And you're basically trying to leverage the best of the two. So it's been real interesting just sort of doing my homework. I'm still learning about the space, but I'm really looking to sort of double down and focus on a certain group that can utilize my skill set the best.
Man, that's awesome. And Damon, you were a corporate warrior. A lot of corporate warriors on the call. I think Jeff Reland, we talked before about like making that plunge into entrepreneurship. And so, hats off to you, dude, for, having that leap of faith, that courage to say like, I'm going to do my own thing. So I
gotta get like Damon. He's got a whole thing like with the exit strategy, your way out. I'm trying to build up to that, man. We can have that conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, down the road. Yeah.
So guys, welcome. Thank you for joining the program today. I see everybody's dropping your LinkedIn profile. I just dropped Eric's in there. You have to connect with Eric. Eric, you may have the best headline on LinkedIn. Can you share with everybody what's your headline on LinkedIn?
So I don't remember it offhand. I didn't memorize it.
Well, I will help with that.
I weaponize companies' missions with a narrative, right? Is that something like?
I weaponize company missions into powerful narratives.
Powerful narrative, I believe it's powerful narratives, successful customer engagements, and positive user experiences.
Yep, and that's what it is.
I think to sort of disseminate that, especially within the past 2 years, there's been a big pivot in how I go about executing in the space. Now, I think everybody sort of has an understanding that content is king, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what often happens is that people, either if we're talking SEO, we're talking about gray hat, we're talking about black hat, or if we're talking about digital ads, we're talking about, maybe keyword stuffing, or just mm-hmm. these sort of interruption type marketing techniques. And I found that the best sort of engagements come from really telling your own personal story, right? And finding where your why you wake up in the morning to do whatever it is that you do, intersects with why your customer is looking for you in the first place, right? Because when you can marry those two things, not only does your customer trust you more, but at the same time, you can be incredibly fulfilled because you're sharing the very thing that drives you to do the business that you're doing. So when we do our marketing campaigns, we're usually looking for that sort of intersection where we can drive the things that you're passionate about into the reason why someone wants to work with you and share their hard-earned money with you in the first place.
Yeah, that is just so good. And the thing is, for manufacturers, and Damon and I work with a lot of different manufacturers. Not only as a manufacturer, we want to be found. But just think of that engineer, that buyer that's just really struggling, finding that good vendor. Supply chain's been just so disrupted for this past year. I know Dan Bigger and I have talked about that multiple times. So just think you're doing yourself a favor to be found, from your perspective, but your ideal buyer is desperately trying to find you. So talk a little bit, we've had great conversations where like you help your clients get those first page rankings. You're great with on local search. Talk a little bit about how you approach helping your clients. Maybe they can't be found anywhere. What's a good starting point for you with that client that's, a little bit on the rough side as far as being found?
Okay. Oh, that's a really good question. So something that I found striking even today, and there's a part of me that's still surprised that this happens, but it does, is Google My Business.
Yeah.
Right? These days, if you have a business and you're not on Google My Business, that, from my perspective, is akin to having a storefront with no signage. Mm-hmm. It's just blank. There's nothing in the windows. There's nothing on this. There's nothing on top of your building. It's just products on the shelf, clear window, and people sitting at maybe desks waiting for people to walk in. And it's very sort of curious to me. I don't know if it's an awareness sort of thing, or maybe people think it'll sort of work itself out. But attending to your local SEO first and foremost is the number one thing you want to do. You want to take control and take charge of your Google My Business profile. You want to take control and take charge of your Yelp profile. And you want to take charge of those sort of higher level, higher domain authority websites that are usually going to populate when people type in your business name or people type in your name, right? So that's your Facebook, that's your maybe Yellow Pages and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you're essentially, Google search is the Yellow Pages for today. Right. So if you're not findable, if somebody can type in your company name and they can't find you, that's the number one thing you need to address.
Right.
Yeah. So
after you address that,
I got a quick question for you. And then I was going to say, hey to Bonnie. She's on LinkedIn, dropping some awesome comments. So that's good. So Bonnie, glad to see you here today. And she is one of those people that's killing it on TikTok. I'm sure she's over 20 million views now because there's like 19 earlier this week, and I talked to her. So they're going, and they got one that's on fire. So that's rolling well. But you said Yelp, and to me, hell, I'm old, and I think Yelp is like, and I know their whole game and the way they've hammered so many people in the past about what they do. They strong arm people into buying advertising, and it really doesn't do them any good. But you're saying just getting listed on Yelp helps you with your local stuff.
So that's the catch-22 with Yelp. And Yelp actually would have gone out of business by now if it weren't for the fact that they got into the game so early, and they're such a dominant player with regard to domain authority, right? Because back then, when Yelp was a major player, and they were giving offers, and they were sort of competing with Groupon and things like that, they were the only ones really monetizing customer reviews and building value in that way, where it's like you can trust X and Y, Z business because we vet these reviews, and you can trust us, and you look to us first before you try out a business. These days, that model is long antiquated. There's tens of thousands of directory sites now that do essentially the same thing. So Yelp's bread and butter is essentially in its domain history and domain authority. So everyone should be on Yelp. But once you sign up to Yelp, and I feel so bad saying this because I must have listened to Yelp I must have listened to sales reps time and time again. I sign up one of my customers, and I just give them a shot, and they send me the same survey, and that 65 to 80% of the people who are on Yelp buy from the people who search. And I'm like, all right, I'm listening. If your budget is such that, and your time is such that you can go in all directions and make the most of every platform, then I'm not going to shoot down Yelp. But what I'll say is, it is not the best use of your time or your budget.
Yeah. Right? Awesome.
So make sure you're listed there. That's a minimum. If you want to put money into that, make sure you're putting money into Google first. Make sure you're putting money into your social media first. Make sure your website is on point, and that the messaging makes sense, and that your call to actions are good. Make sure you've addressed everything that you can address. And if you're the type of person that wants to make $100 million, make sure you do it that way first. But if you want that extra 101 million, then you.
It reminds me of that one guy that when he's trying to get the date with a girl, and she said something like totally shoots him down, but he said, "But you didn't say no."
Yeah, you mean
it's like the last thing that you're gonna do. But yeah, because I'm trying
to be kind to those sales reps because they work so hard.
I know what you mean.
Email you.
Right. Yeah, you're right, and they try and all that stuff. But I was just because I had thought about that. I thought about Yelp and Yahoo and the other ones, the Yellow Pages and all they're antiquated as heck. But you're right, the domain authority alone and getting the backlinks into it and just helps.
Absolutely.
There's a lot right there. So let's unpack a few things. Like Eric, you just dropped like some just massive value bombs.
Yeah.
Right. So let's unpack a few things there for our full audience out there. So and again, hello, Gail. Gail says she has FOMO from Bonnie on LinkedIn right now. But you're with the cool kids here on Remo.
You didn't see though. She's on LinkedIn now too. She's over commenting on LinkedIn and in Remo, so she's got two devices going.
She's a multitasker. I can't do that.
She's got her Mac and iPad rolling, so she's hitting both sides. So she's there talking with Bonnie on LinkedIn. So.
And we got Paul here, and Paul's going to be speaking for us in a few weeks. He's the him and Dan, USA Manufacturing Twitter chat.
Yeah.
God bless you guys. So let's unpack what you just unraveled right there. Okay? Let's talk about the citation. So it is critical if you're a manufacturer, you're out there and you're like, Yelp, why would I go on Yelp? I'm not a restaurant. Like Eric's saying, just get that quality backlink. So like we have a little tool that we use with our clients. It's this wonderful, amazing tool. We can get your top 50 citations and a lot, Better Business Bureau, Just Landed, all these wacky, goofy that have been around forever. But you just want those high quality links. So that's one great tip that Eric just dropped.
Yeah.
I want to throw something in there. I use something called, I use an app called GeoSetter, right?
Mhm.
I'm willing to give away my secrets today. I use this app called GeoSetter, right? And when I'm dealing with a business, I take some of their business images, especially if you have like team members or you have places where you've done business. A really good way to expand your search radius. Um, I wish I had the slides for you guys because I've never been able to really capture these images. But essentially, if you drop a pin where your location is, right, and somebody searches for your business within say a mile, because they're within that search radius, your ranking is going to be prominent, right? You're more likely to rank high.
Yeah.
But as you further and further away from that pin, your ranking drops because your locality is less relevant. Now, doing all those citations and all those things are fantastic for local SEO. You absolutely should do it. But if you want to hack the system a little bit, what you should do is you should take company images. I like to take at least 10, but I would use 20, 30. I don't think there's really a limit on what you should use here. You take those images, and if you can, pin areas where you've done business, pin areas where your team members have been, and it's really simple. You can use your phone, right? Turn on the geo settings on like your iPhone or something like that. Take a picture when you're somewhere, and just get that location data, right? And what you essentially want to do is you want to spread out those locations on the map. So you have a pin here, you have a pin there, you have a pin there, you have a pin there, pin there, pin there. So like you expand your radius, you tag these images with your geolocation, and then you upload it to your Google My Business profile. You upload it to your Yelp profile. You upload it to these citation directories. And what essentially is going to happen is the algorithm weaponizes everything now. Everything from your file name to your geotags to your metadata. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that they are not counting now. I recently found out that if you have your keywords on your YouTube video, right? If you're saying your keywords and your keyword is actually displayed somewhere in your YouTube video, the algorithms are picking that up now. Yeah. So there's absolutely nothing that's in vain. Nothing.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And that's like when you do your videos, that's what we were learning as well, is if you make sure that you're mentioning your keywords, the keyword phrases that you want to cover in a topical based video, and you're then putting text on a blog post, like if you do a transcription, it seems like it gets more traction. It gets more traction from that.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. So you don't want to underestimate the power of geolocation, especially with regard to that, because once you do that, once you sort of tag those areas around around your locality, and you have it all driving back to that same central point, what's essentially going to happen is you're going to bolster your radius, and you're going to rank about as high as you would if somebody were right at your doorstep from miles away. Yeah. So I haven't seen the limits of that tested. I don't know if you can go state to state doing that. I don't know if you can.
Well, we're going to test it. I'm testing it like this weekend, dude. So, and I'm one of those crazy people that started with Google Maps uploading photos like 10 years ago or something like that, or a long time. Whenever I got my first Android phone, I've got like 15 million views on Google Maps. So I can.
That's awesome.
Right. But I've got this whole register of these images that I could be sharing from places where I've been, because I take where I do businesses I like, and those things. So we'll try it because it'll be fun. And our partners and other people that work across the US, we can actually then, now that what you're saying, if I'm a manufacturer and I work in 7 different places, like we had a client last year, oil field services, they're in all over in these oil field places. Well, if they had people taking pictures and all of as they upload that stuff to all their listings, it would help them in those areas. That's an awesome application of that.
It absolutely would help them. And I suspect, now I don't travel all around the country, but I suspect if you're a nationwide brand, that is incredibly competitive. Incredibly competitive. Yeah. So something like that, I feel like should possibly even be commonplace. Let's say your products or services speak for themselves and they're already ranking well. Some like a little small tip like that, a pro tip like that, can be the difference between you being maybe number 3 or number 4. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like just something like that. Ton of difference.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. So that's a huge nugget.
let's hit a couple things, Eric. So Gail's asking, how do you spell that tool that you
So I downloaded it so long ago. I've held on to it because I just hate losing track of things.
Yeah.
I know that it was an obscure sort of tool.
right?
I see that she has a link in the chat. I just
Yeah.
want to
yeah,
make
there it
sure.
is.
Jeff dropped it.
Yeah,
in there.
Jeff dropped it in there.
Thanks,
So we
Jeff.
got that.
All right, Jeff, and guys, connect with Eric on connect on with Eric on LinkedIn. Have these
Yeah,
conversations.
I have no problem sharing that tool with you guys. I just want to thank first because that website that you guys put in the link looks a little spammy, and I'm not entirely sure that that's the right website.
Thank you, Jeff. And so let's unpack another thing right there. I mean, man,
So
Eric,
much.
I had high expectations. Like, you are just crushing it right now. So,
Yeah.
So okay, so we're talking about some local stuff. So I'm a manufacturer, and I'm like, dude, wait a minute. I'm shipping nationwide. Why do I want local? This is the preach that Damon and I, we do a lot of workshops and webinars. In the mid 90s, early 90s, or mid 90s, say a lot of the service sectors, the plumbers, nail salons, hair salons, they're like, man, I can't take a phone book ad out anymore. I need to, what is this internet thing? And then all of a sudden now you're telling me I have to do Facebook. I have to go on these directories. I have to do Yelp. Everything that was happening to the retail service sector 15, 20 years ago is now hitting manufacturers. And again, these citations are so important to get those quality backlinks. But now I think you hit something really important, and I share these at my webinars. Google My Business.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, if I did a webinar for just entrepreneurs in general, I'd be like, hey, you guys need to be on Google Local if you're a service provider, again, plumber, hairdresser. But if you're national, not so important. Today, I agree with you 100%. I have a person on my team. She's working diligently on Google My Business for 2 manufacturers I'm working with. Talk a little bit about the opportunities there. Obviously, number one, it's Google.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, it's free.
Yeah.
And Google is almost letting you can blog, you can post videos, but talk a little bit about what are you encouraging people to do?
I would love to. I think one of the biggest things people get wrong on Google My Business is the service category, right? They don't categorize themselves correctly and they miss out on opportunities there. Another humongous thing that for whatever reason, people are either getting right by accident or completely missing the mark on, and they really shouldn't, is reviews.
Yeah.
People really, 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 really underestimate the value of reviews because it's not just in having them, right? But it's also the words that are being used when they're leaving the review in the first place. And Google's really, really sharp. Their algorithm is bar none, probably the best algorithm out there, if not in the top 3. And what they do is not only do they look at the keywords, not only do they look at the semantically relevant keywords, but they look at like pronouns. They look at how the emotion that people put into their reviews, where if they have a strong positive reaction to your business, that in and of itself will add credence to how they rank you. So I think people completely miss the mark when it comes to customer reviews, because if you look at your local packs, if you look at your map listings, there's a ton of people there, but I think we all do this. You have a couple people with like no reviews, like 1 or 2 people with no reviews, a couple people with like maybe 3 to under 10 reviews, and then you have like maybe 3 or 4 people that have like 60 or 50 or whatever reviews, and those are sort of the reviews that we gravitate to those first, right? And just in doing that, just in looking at the listing to look at the reviews, your value goes up. Right? Because you're garnering attention. Google is all about being relevant. Google's all about making sure they have the best data available for you. So if people are just taking the time to even read your reviews, it's a positive thing. I think people completely undervalue reviews. You should be harassing the people that are like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. You guys are the best. I am so glad I did this. You find that person, you have them give you a review. It's g.page / whatever you set it up under. Have them leave you a review. If they forget, make it easy for them. A step that you can do to sort of make this easier for people because some people, they don't know what they want to say. Some people overthink it. Give them some options. Just give them some stuff it would be super helpful if you could talk about X, Y, and Z that we did for you. You know, if you and just give them a little like 2 sentence thing to get them started. And just put 5 stars, put your name on it, tell them that you love me for this thing. It would be a tremendous help to my business. It'll help me get more business, and it's absolutely free. If they really appreciated what you did for them, they will leave you a review if you make it easy for them.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric, dude, drop the mic. So, all right, let's unpack that one right now. Okay, let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Let's think about this.
Yeah.
Damon, I know you're huge on reviews.
Yeah.
As a manufacturer, how many manufacturers you're thinking, you know, come on, man, I'm B2B, I'm bending metal for somebody who's going to give me a review. Let's think about that. What did Eric say? We're not ashamed to bribe, right? We could do gift cards, but here's a nice strategy I've had manufacturers do over the years. They go on LinkedIn and they will go to their customers, they'll even go to their vendors, and they will type a wonderful raving review or testimonial on LinkedIn, totally unsolicited. So now you're doing that random act of kindness. Hey, Eric, I love doing business with you. You're the best, da-da-da-da-da. Put that on LinkedIn, not ask for necessarily anything in return. Now, with what you're saying, what if you go to your customers, your vendors, or other folks that you're in relationship with, you put out a nice Google review, they might do that in return. So there's a great opportunity to do it first and then have it come back your way. And just think, if as a custom manufacturer, if you could have even 5 reviews, odds are your competitor has 0, and they're not even paying attention to Google My Business.
That is such a relevant point that you made, Kurt, and thank you so much for saying that. In the few interactions I've had with industrial and sort of manufacturing type businesses, there is such a lack of competitive digital marketing in that space that people who are sort of like just sort of half cocking it, so to speak, are doing fine. They're on the front page. I remember a guy was soliciting me for work, and he did smokestack repair or something like that, right? And the competition was abysmal.
Yeah.
And his consideration of doing good SEO was like, how can I make my website just all markup, but make it look like WordPress? And I was trying to tell him, you're completely missing the point, man. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Your website will be faster, and that is absolutely something that will help your SEO, but that's not the point, right? What you're talking about is technical SEO, and it's in conjunction with a larger strategy. Let me help you.
Yeah.
The person didn't want to hear it, and it's fine, because at the end of the day, you don't want to sell something to someone when they don't see the value.
Yeah.
I'm done with that life.
Yeah.
If you don't see the value, I don't want to sell it to you.
Yeah.
I just
right.
Just seeing that sort of interaction, it's like, wow, there's a tremendous opportunity for someone to come into this space and be shrewd and just kill it across all channels and lock themselves in to a top 3 position. Because what a lot of people don't realize is when you get into a top 3 position in your industry, that business can get sold, right?
Yeah.
Over 75% of the search traffic goes to the front page.
Yeah.
Right. And the number's actually closer to 90, but those first 3 positions are like gold, especially in highly competitive industries. So if you can lock yourself in to a top 3 position organically, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, focus on another part of your business, because I dropped my phone. But in 2 or 3 years, you might be able to sell that business, because that is what I have seen. Now, I haven't done that for anyone yet, and I would love to. That's an aspirational goal, but it's absolutely possible if you take care of your SEO.
Yeah, and when you're a local company too, this is a thing that a local company, if you look at it and you go, there's not a lot of competition within 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles of where you're doing. You have a much, like you mentioned before, trying to be a national brand is one thing, but trying to be a local brand or a regional brand is much different. And you could be in a location where there's not many people that are plumbers that know what they're doing in this respect, and you can look at it and they all have 1 or 2 reviews, and you've got 20, and you've done all these other things like you're talking about, and you can come up there locally in your region, and that is huge, especially down the road if somebody wants to come in there and buy that company later.
That is absolutely true. And I'm just gonna throw a little nugget in there as sort of an aside. I've noticed something over a recent couple of months. If you do a good job with your local SEO, the way the Google pattern works, like when you search on a map, it's usually 2 things local and 1 thing far out, right? Like is usually the way the local pattern works. I have no idea why, but it's sort of like a Y. If you do a good job on your local SEO, I've seen it do that state to state, right? So somebody can be in the next state over. Somebody can be in Chicago, and you can be in Michigan, and someone's looking for something in your industry, and depending on how they search for the term, it will wideband out and still hit you in Michigan.
Wow.
Right? It's the most relevant view in that state. So it's really compelling, and it behooves you to be really algorithm friendly and make it as easy as possible for the search engines to know that you're relevant and that you're valuable.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. And the thing, like what you're hitting on, Eric, is like, you know, what we talk about frequently are like in manufacturing, a lot of broad terms. So like CNC, metal fabrication, plastic injection molding, 3D printing. And so, you know, a lot of manufacturers get stuck on that broad term. What you're introducing is, if we can go, you know, in our language, long tail. And now long tail is all simply, what are you best at? Well, I do plastic injection molding, but when I ask you for who, I do plastic injection molding for turbine engines or aerospace, or I perform the service or function for somebody or a specific product. And if you can get that into those directories, you can get that into like your YouTube videos, and you're putting those keywords into your video. You're linking back to your website, Google My Business, citations, everything that Eric just laid out for us. And you go after these long tail keywords, the images, you're just going to be dominating your search, because other people aren't sophisticated enough to pick up these little tips and strategies. And with everything that you just laid out today, we've talked. So man, time just flies. We got
yeah. I think you said something I wanted to touch on. I already lost it. I'm thinking about the next thing with YouTube. I'm like,
but think about how much money did you ask somebody to spend or invest in everything that you talked about in the past 30, 40 minutes?
How much have I charged people for? Oh
no, how much have you asked people to spend? Like virtually zero.
No,
like,
it doesn't cost you anything. It costs you
I don't think you've asked somebody to spend 1 penny in the past. In every strategy that you just laid out, you haven't asked somebody to spend 1 penny.
Doesn't cost you anything.
Title of the program: Simple Marketing Tips that Drive Powerful Results.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry if you lost your idea or your thought.
No, I got it back just at the end there, because you touched on it just now when you were talking about long tail, right? Sometimes when some people who are trying to do SEO, you know, a novice mistake is to do keyword stuffing. A novice mistake is to just make a lot of titles that sort of stack up. Like, I'm drinking coffee right now, so somebody will be like, you know, coffee in my locale, you know, like, so let's use New York for instance, coffee in New York, find more coffee in New York, coffee in New York near me, you know, that kind of stuffing stack on their pages. And it's really good to use the active tense, right? When you are actually making that copy, when you are actually making those titles, it's good to very similar to like what I was saying earlier with the reviews and sort of the emotion that goes behind what's being said, to put it into a context that makes it clear that it's actionable and valuable, right? So whatever your product or service is, let's say you make widgets, right? Because I can't think of anything right now in particular, but your widgets help you maintain stability on the road. Instead of just say the most stable widgets, you know, talk about a use case, right? Widgets that can help you grip to the curb in during the rain, right? Just something that's within context and a little bit more actionable in your usage will raise its overall SEO value. So I just wanted to touch on that because you had mentioned it. And another thing I want to touch on is YouTube. So right now, I know this is not necessarily about YouTube, but since we're talking about YouTube, you can geotag YouTube. So that's one thing. You want to do that. The same way I mentioned images, do that to your YouTube channel. Another thing I don't see people doing right or well enough are hashtags, right? It will prominently float 3 hashtags above the title, but you can use maybe about 7 to 10 that will still get indexed as searchable things in your user description. Not enough people are putting their keywords in the description, in the title, and in their tags. Tags are how Google videos are found on their search network, and it is the second largest search engine in the world, and it's also owned by Google, which means if you mark it up correctly, it will actually take one of those zero snippet result positions, right? You ever Google something and say, what's the best way to fold paper? Nowadays, Google has almost an answer for everything, and it's like, the best way to fold paper is in bold, and then it's some link, and that's a zero position market that everybody's going for now, right? Like, that's the goal if you're gonna bother to do some type of SEO thing for that zero position. But what there's a lot of room for, right? Aside from the people also ask, are those videos. Because people take time watching those videos. It's very easy to put a lot of information into a video, into 30 seconds, and people will actually watch it and maybe click through to something. So do not underestimate the power of that, because it will still show up in search results, and it will absolutely positively impact your SEO.
That's freaking awesome, man. So much.
Yeah.
You just unpacked, like, Eric, what a gift you are, man. That was so, wow. Everybody, let's get a little virtual applause. AJ, Dan, thank you for being here. Gail,
thanks so much.
Noah, thank you, brother. Paul, you and Eric need to definitely connect. Our dear friend, my beloved Val, thank you. Guys, connect with Eric on LinkedIn. I dropped his chat in there. Eric, parting thoughts, words of wisdom, anything that you want to leave us with for the weekend?
Parting thoughts. Okay, so there was a tip I wanted to share today, because this is another like pro tip that I think everyone can take action on, including myself. And when it comes to my own SEO, I usually spend more time on other people's stuff than my own stuff. That is my biggest crime.
Yeah.
But if you have a website that has Google Analytics on it, if you have a website that should be connected to Search Console.
Yep.
I don't know if people are not, but if you've dabbled in SEO and you've tried to optimize a little bit, and you have your stuff connected, a fantastic way to sort of take action today and start getting found for some stuff that you're not getting found for is to jump into Search Console and look at your impressions, right? You want to look at, there's usually about 4 columns there. There's the click-through rate, there's the impressions, there's the rank number, and there's something else that I usually don't pay attention to, but it's important. Anyway, you want to look at the impressions, and you want to compare it to the click-through rates, right? And essentially, something that's getting a lot of impressions but very, very minimal amount of click-throughs, you want to pay attention to that, and you want to see what those pages are that are getting ranked for those impressions. There's a very good chance that if you were to tweak some of the messaging, some of the copy, some of the titles, some of the meta descriptions there, that you'll be able to earn a few more click-throughs. Because what those impression numbers are actually saying is, hey, Google thinks that what you have here is relevant to what's being searched for, but whatever you're saying, whatever your messaging is on the front door, people are just sort of looking at it and walking by it because it's not, there's a missing connection there, right? And this is actionable almost to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone has at least 1 or 2 pages on their website.
Yep.
Could be doing way better if they would take the time to change 2 or 3 paragraphs up. So that would be something that I would want to leave people with. Is there?
That's a great one. That's so great.
Well,
yeah, no, well, we're good, man, because it's 17 after. I gotta let Kurt wind us up so that the people at the tables can talk to you. This is incredible. But go ahead, Kurt. I'm flabbergasted here.
Eric, I know. Can I tell everybody, like, Eric was like a little nervous this week, and I'm like, Eric, you're going to be absolutely just a rock star, and man, you just crushed it. So everybody, so what we're going to do, Eric, we're going to go back to those tables that were just back. Everybody that's here on Remo, please jump back to the tables. You're going to get a chance to talk with Eric one-on-one. Just get more golden gems here.
Yeah.
Dude, that was absolutely priceless. Everybody, thank you for your time. We value every weekend.
That was so sweet. Thank you, Gail.
Go out, crush it. Crush whatever you're doing. Have a great weekend. Eric, thank you, man, my man. I appreciate your time. You've been, what a blessing you are.
So
And I
awesome.
appreciate our friendship, and we've been having a great time for the past few months, and we're going to keep it rolling.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, everyone that's been watching on LinkedIn, thanks so much for watching us there too. We're going to drop off here. And remember, if you're on LinkedIn and you want to get over here and talk to our speakers and do the networking before and after, you can join us on Remo. You just check out Kurt's profile or mine anytime during the week. The link is there and ready to go. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anytime,
Thanks,
Eric.
guys.
It was incredible, dude. All right. Well, let's get back to the tables here.
Awesome.